He was the quintessential self-made billionaire. Started in a garage, just like Jobs and Wozniak. Built an empire on ones and zeros. His name was synonymous with innovation, his face plastered on magazine covers. He had it all: wealth, power, influence. But something wasn't quite right. This man, let's call him Ethan, wasn't just another out-of-touch billionaire playing space tourist. He cared, or at least he projected that image quite convincingly. He spoke about income inequality, about the environment, about the responsibility that came with great wealth. He donated millions to charities, funded research, even dabbled in politics. He was the good billionaire, the exception, the one who actually gave a damn. Or so we thought. Ethan's world, however, was about to be turned upside down. A seemingly insignificant email buried deep in his inbox would unravel the carefully constructed facade of his reality. It would expose him to a level of corruption he could never have imagined, a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of government, and it would ultimately lead to his downfall. This wasn't just about dodgy tax breaks or backroom lobbying. This was about something far more sinister. This was about the erosion of democracy, the manipulation of information, the systematic silencing of dissent. And Ethan, whether he liked it or not, was now at the center of it all. It started innocently enough, a whistleblower reaching out through a secure channel, hoping to expose a government contract that reeked of impropriety. Ethan, with his resources and his tech savvy, seemed like the perfect ally. The contract involved a surveillance program, something that immediately set off alarm bells in Ethan's mind. He dug deeper, piecing together fragments of information, following digital trails that led to dead ends and shadowy figures. The deeper he went, the more he realized the true scope of what he had stumbled upon. This wasn't just about one contract. It was a vast network of corruption, a web of lies and deceit that extended far beyond what he could have imagined. Ethan discovered that the surveillance program was just the tip of the iceberg. The government, in collusion with powerful corporations, was collecting vast amounts of data on its citizens. Every email, every text message, every online interaction was being monitored, analyzed, and stored. Privacy, it seemed, was nothing but an illusion. The implications were staggering. This was a blatant violation of civil liberties, a direct assault on the very principles of freedom and democracy. Ethan knew he couldn't stay silent. He had a moral obligation, a duty to expose the truth, no matter the cost. He decided to use his platform, his influence, to shine a light on the darkness. He was going to bring down the House of Cards. Ethan, naive as he was, believed that the truth would speak for itself. He held a press conference, laying out the evidence, detailing the extent of the government's overreach. He expected outrage, a public outcry, a demand for accountability. What he got instead was something far more insidious, a smear campaign. The media, once enamored by his every move, now turned on him with a vengeance. Headlines screamed about baseless accusations and reckless endangerment. Pundits, bought and paid for, questioned his sanity, his motives, his very character. He was painted as a paranoid conspiracy theorist, a danger to national security, a traitor to his own country. The narrative shifted. No longer was he the visionary entrepreneur, the philanthropist, the champion of the people. He was now a threat, a liability, a loose cannon that needed to be silenced. And the media, with its relentless barrage of misinformation and character assassination, was the weapon of choice. The public, bombarded with this one-sided narrative, began to doubt. They questioned what they thought they knew about Ethan, about their government, about the very nature of truth. The line between fact and fiction became blurred, lost in a sea of spin and manipulation. Ethan had become the enemy, and the people, unwittingly, had become complicit in their own oppression. The speed at which public opinion shifted was astounding. Just weeks earlier, Ethan had been hailed as a hero, a visionary. Now, he was public enemy number one, his face plastered on wanted posters, his name dragged through the mud. The very people he was trying to help had turned against him, fueled by a media machine that thrived on fear and outrage. Social media, once a platform for his philanthropic ventures and progressive ideals, became a breeding ground for hate and vitriol. Death threats flooded his inbox, his family was harassed, his employees lived in fear. The online mob, whipped into a frenzy by carefully curated misinformation, had become judge, jury, and executioner. Ethan's mistake, it seemed, was underestimating the power of the media and the susceptibility of the public. He had naively believed that facts and logic would prevail, that the truth would set him free. But in the court of public opinion, perception was reality and the narrative had been hijacked. The irony was not lost on him. He had built his empire on the very technology that was now being used to destroy him. The tools of communication, of connection, had been weaponized, turned into instruments of control and manipulation. And he, the supposed master of the digital domain, was powerless to stop it. Section 5. A helping hand. The Mogul's philanthropic ventures. Even before the storm hit, Ethan had dedicated a significant portion of his wealth to social causes. He funded education initiatives, invested in renewable energy, and supported organizations fighting for social justice. He believed in using his privilege to uplift others, to level the playing field, to make the world a better place. One of his most ambitious projects was a foundation dedicated to bridging the digital divide. He believed that access to information and technology was a fundamental human right, and he poured millions into providing internet access to underserved communities around the world. He funded the development of low-cost computers, established digital literacy programs, and worked tirelessly to empower individuals through technology. Ethan's philanthropy wasn't just about writing checks, it was about creating lasting change. He was personally invested in the causes he supported, often visiting project sites, meeting with beneficiaries and listening to their stories. He understood that true philanthropy was about empowering others, not just throwing money at problems. His efforts earned him accolades and awards, but more importantly, they made a tangible difference in the lives of countless individuals. He provided opportunities, opened doors, and gave hope to those who had been marginalized and left behind. He was in many ways living up to the image of the good billionaire, the one who actually cared. Section 6. The fall from grace, ousted by the ones he tried to help. The more Ethan tried to defend himself, the deeper he dug his own grave. Every public statement, every interview was twisted and manipulated to fit the narrative that had been carefully crafted for him. He was trapped in a web of his own making, a prisoner of his own success. His business partners, fearing repercussions, distanced themselves. Investors pulled out, his stock plummeted, his empire crumbled. He was ousted from his own company, his life's work ripped away from him in a matter of weeks. The irony was as palpable as it was painful. He was brought down by the very system he sought to expose, crushed under the weight of the very machine he helped create. The people he had tried to help, the ones who had benefited from his generosity, were nowhere to be seen. They had bought into the lie, swayed by the relentless propaganda, convinced that he was the enemy. The digital tools he had provided, the very platforms he had helped build, were now being used to silence him, to erase his legacy, to rewrite history. Ethan's downfall was a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the fragility of truth in the digital age. It exposed the dark underbelly of the media, the ease with which public opinion could be manipulated, the power of fear and misinformation. He had dared to challenge the status quo, to expose the rot at the core of the system, and for that he was punished. Section 7. The power of the media shaping public perception. The media, once considered the Fourth Estate, a watchdog meant to hold power accountable, had become a tool for the powerful to maintain their grip. News had become entertainment, facts were fluid, and truth was a matter of perspective. The lines between journalism, opinion, and propaganda were blurred beyond recognition. Ethan's story demonstrated the chilling effectiveness of this new media landscape. By controlling the narrative, by shaping the way information was presented, those in power could control the public's perception of reality. Dissent could be silenced, whistleblowers could be discredited, and inconvenient truths could be buried under a mountain of misinformation. This wasn't just about one tech mogul's downfall, it was about the erosion of trust in institutions, the fragmentation of shared reality, the rise of a post-truth society. When facts were malleable, when truth was subjective, then those in power could operate with impunity, their actions beyond scrutiny, their motives beyond question. Ethan's story was a wake-up call, a stark reminder of the importance of media literacy, critical thinking, and independent thought. In a world saturated with information, it was more important than ever to question everything, to seek out diverse perspectives. to be wary of those who benefited from sowing division and distrust. Section 8. The illusion of choice, how we're being manipulated. We like to think we're in control, that our opinions are our own, that we form our beliefs based on reason and evidence. But the reality is far more insidious. We are constantly bombarded with information, much of it designed to influence our thoughts, our emotions, our very behavior. From the targeted ads that follow us across the web to the algorithms that curate our news feeds, we are being nudged, manipulated, and herded like sheep. Our choices, our preferences, our very identities are being shaped by forces beyond our control. The illusion of choice is perhaps the most insidious aspect of this new reality. We believe we have agency, that we are free to choose what we consume, what we believe, who we trust. But the options presented to us, the information we're exposed to, are carefully curated to keep us engaged, to reinforce existing biases, to steer us towards predetermined outcomes. Ethan's downfall exposed the fragility of our perceived autonomy. He, like so many others, had been played, manipulated by a system designed to protect itself at all costs. He had dared to believe that he could use his power, his influence, to challenge the status quo, only to discover that he was a pawn in a much larger game. Section 9. A call to action, thinking critically in the digital age. So where do we go from here? How do we navigate this complex, often overwhelming information landscape? The answer, as with most things in life, lies in finding a balance. We must be skeptical without succumbing to cynicism, engaged without being overwhelmed, informed without being indoctrinated. We need to be more discerning consumers of information, questioning everything, seeking out multiple perspectives, and being wary of those who benefit from sowing division and trust. We need to be aware of our own biases, our own susceptibility to manipulation, and actively seek out information that challenges our preconceived notions. This is not a call for apathy or disengagement, quite the opposite. We need to be more engaged than ever, more critical, more willing to speak truth to power. We need to reclaim our agency, our ability to think for ourselves, to form our own opinions, to challenge the narratives that are being foisted upon us. Ethan's story is a cautionary tale, but it is also a call to action. It is a reminder that the fight for truth, for justice, for a more equitable and just society is an ongoing struggle. It is a struggle that requires vigilance, critical thinking, and a willingness to question everything, especially those who claim to have all the answers. The future of our democracy, our very freedom, may depend on it.